White House, we take a look at battleground states that are still too close to call. Celebrations as a Southeast Kansas native wins his ticket to Washington. And we take a look at the balance of power in Congress.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
The 2020 presidential election was predicted to be close, and it is. Votes are still being counted, and it may be days or more before we know who will be the next president of the United States. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, the vote counting continues today. And of course, could keep going for several more days as battleground states process a record-setting amount of votes. Now, here's a look at the current popular vote. Democratic nominee Joe Biden has pulled ahead in the upper Midwest states of Wisconsin and Michigan, while Pennsylvania still has about 1 million votes left to be counted, many of them in Democratic-friendly areas. While the race for president is still unclear, there were several winners declared across the 4 states in both state and local races. We're going to start in Kansas with the U.S. Senate race for outgoing Senator Pat Roberts' seat. Republican Congressman Roger Marshall defeated the Democratic State Senator Barbara Boyer. The race was the most expensive race for U.S. Senate in state history. In his victory speech, Marshall promised to take the fight to Washington.
This victory, like the U.S. Senate seat, belongs to the people of Kansas. This has been a year like no other, but I know better days are ahead. To the families who've lost loved ones amid this pandemic, the everyday workers and small businesses who are still struggling to make ends meet, and the farmers and my ranchers concerned for their future, know that we will fight for you every single day, and together we will persevere. Together we will emerge stronger than ever before.
Southeast Kansas native Jake LaTurner battled for a ticket to Washington, facing off with Topeka Mayor Michelle De La Isla for the 2nd Congressional District in Kansas. He celebrated victory in his hometown of Galena last night. LaTurner took to the stage to address his supporters with fireworks in the background.
This is great. My family's been in Galena for over 7 generations. To get to experience this victory here tonight is a big deal. But I know the people throughout the entire 2nd Congressional District, and we are going to work hard every single day to represent the people of this district and represent their viewpoint in Washington, D.C.
LaTurner added that his first priority in Congress is to get started on his contract with Kansas plan. In Missouri, former state auditor Nicole Galloway challenged incumbent Governor Mike Parson. The Associated Press was the first to call this race in Parson's favor.
Now, for months, you've heard me say, it is our time. That's what I've said. This is our time. And I've said that time and time again across the state on every stop I've made for the last year, because I believe it's me and you. I don't believe it's about me as governor. I believe it's about all of us to be together. I believe it is our time to protect the Constitution. I believe it is our time to preserve the American dream. And I believe it is our time to preserve freedoms for the next generation. And it is our time to be governor for 4 more years.
Voters in Missouri also decided a constitutional amendment. Amendment 3 would change a redistricting process that voters approved in 2018. And this one was close, but voters approved the amendment with 51% of the vote. Well, there's one thing for sure. We've got sunny skies and a warm weather this week. Michael Hayslip joins us with a first look at the forecast.
Still going to run this string of 70s. It's been unbelievable as far as historically speaking, about a 15-year gap between we've been able to do this from the beginning to about mid-November here. Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin, where we sit at 73 degrees already. And look at that humidity dropping down to 30%. Now the Skywatch Storm Tracker, clear as can be. Big difference going to be a little bit of the cloud cover that's worked in. Throw the satellite imagery on right there and you can tell sweeping right over us, working in from west to east. But it remains dry. 69 in Parsons, 71 in Monette, and 70 in Grove. One thing that has been a constant this week, how windy it's been outside. Sustained winds in between 10 to 15 miles per hour. We've already thrown up some gusts around 25. Now, as far as future track goes, the one thing about the cloud cover is going to make for a very mild and even warm tomorrow. And then tomorrow afternoon, goodbye clouds. They push off to the east and we continue to roll the 70s into the weekend. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, talk about where we're going to need that rain come Sunday into Monday. Also, too, Tropical Storm Eta. Yeah, it's going to become a low pressure system. No big deal, right? No, not only going to reformulate in the Gulf, but also try to make a beeline for the United States.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Thank you, Michael. Well, that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at Noon, the balance of power.
Republicans have held the majority in the Senate for several years. I'm Bofta Imam on Capitol Hill with the top seats that are still hanging in the balance.
But first, a look at more four-state election results. Republicans are clinging to a majority in the Senate, but several races still hang in the balance across the country. Democrats are on a narrow path to retain control of the House, but falling short of the party's goals to grow its majority. CBS's Bafta Imam is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
It's a waiting game for the Democratic Party looking to wrestle control of the Senate chamber from Republicans. By early Wednesday, CBS News had projected one new seat for the party, with Colorado Democrat John Hickenlooper defeating incumbent Republican Cory Gardner. But that gain was offset by Doug Jones's projected loss to Republican Tommy Tuberville in Alabama. Democrats are eyeing Arizona, where it looks like Mark Kelly could pick up a seat from Martha McSally.
Thank you, South Carolina.
Top Republicans Lindsey Graham and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell both survived challenges from well-funded Democrats.
Tonight, Kentucky said we're keeping our front row seat in the Senate.
The races remain a toss-up in Maine, North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan. Democrats had high hopes of flipping some traditionally red states, but fell short in Iowa, Texas, and Montana. CBS News has not made a projection on the House majority, but Democrats have fallen short of their goals.
The House predictions going in are a prime example of what I would call this irrational exuberance.
QAnon supporter Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene is projected to win her Georgia district. The president's former physician Ronnie Jackson took a House GOP seat in Texas, and freshman incumbent Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez retains her New York seat. Bofta Imam, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Well, your complete forecast is on its way, and we'll hear from Ottawa County Sheriff-elect David Dean. But first, a look at more four-state election results.
A little November 4th post-election housekeeping from yesterday. Now, while we're already at 73 on our Wednesday, yesterday, Tuesday, November 3, we topped out at 76 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport. Now, the past two November 3rd elections that we had, it was only 44 degrees back on November 3rd of 1992. Now, however, go back to 1964, it was 80 degrees on that election Tuesday. But needless to say, you were cruising past our average high, not only today, but it's going to be a continuing trend. Now that we bucked those colder temperatures that we had last week, and we're going to be able to cruise the 70s, we're just going to be able to fill this graph up by the time we get to next Monday. Live look outside of Television City, 73 degrees is where we stand. Hello, Dolly. You have that one on your list, Tanya? Coming in from the south-southwest, 24 miles per hour. We'll get to the reason why our barometer is falling here in just a little bit. But I want to stress it's a combination, and the humidity and the warm temperatures, saying it over and over and over again this week. It's not a limited fire risk today. We're going to call it an elevated fire risk. Please, 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 going to stress that. I don't want to burn anything outside, even though it's probably tempting in your neighborhood because you're going to have some limbs blown down by this extreme south wind that we have. 73 in both CJ and Carthage, 68 in Independence, and 72 right now in Miami. Wind gust close to 40 miles per hour in Chanute, Nevada earlier this morning. And now as we sit at the noon hour, consistent 30-mile-an-hour gusts, and it's not going to die anytime soon. We're going to carry this all the way into the evening hours. And it's not just us that's fighting this very, very dry air mass. It's pretty much everybody now west of the Mississippi. It does get a little bit better the farther east that you go, but like I said, it's dangerous conditions just about everywhere because of that wind. Jet stream with a big split in it. We had that big trough earlier this week when we had those freeze warnings in the mornings. Well, that's because it was ripping out of Canada, coming right through us, and then rebounding back up. That's why it caused that system yesterday morning, dissipated before had any effect on the poles or anything like that. But now look at it going straight west to east. Also a little split in it coming out of the southwest right here. That warms everybody up, and as you can tell, as it kind of arches around us and heads up toward the Great Lakes from the 4 states all the way down to the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, going to be way above average for this time of year. Now, on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, what happened with that high pressure system we had? Well, it pushed off east of the Mississippi, and so what that's allowed everything to happen behind us. Remember, we talked about that barometer falling. Well, we got a little low pressure right here, and that's been the emergence of the cloud cover. No precipitation, but just the cloud cover. But once again, also stressing this week, the low pressure just wants to die out right there on Wichita, and that's why we're going to remain so dry for the time being. Now, it's going to stick around really through the afternoon and evening hours as well. We're going to have to wait for everything in central Kansas to kind of clear out, and then similar to the jet stream, the cloud cover is going to move from west to east as well. Let's talk about Tropical Storm Eta as it has pounded Nicaragua. Still tropical storm force as it's gone almost halfway into the country. Now, it's going to become a low pressure system here next couple of days. Still massive flood warnings along the Central American coast, but then look at the reemergence of the tropical storm force as it makes its way outside the Yucatan Peninsula and then back toward the Gulf. Tropical storm as it heads toward Cuba. Here's the interesting development after that. After it moves over Cuba, we're anticipating it to stay tropical storm force, head towards South Florida. By the time we get to Monday, Tuesday next week, they'll probably have tropical storm warnings as well. This afternoon, we'll go mid-70s. Nice thing about the cloud cover, number one, don't have that glare. Number two, look at the overnight temperatures. Going to be able to stay in the 50s. Tanya, clouds are gone as of tomorrow morning. Whole bunch of sunshine, and those 70s remain. Say it again, this is a stretch from November 3rd to November 10th of temperatures that we have not experienced since 2005.
Wow. Hey, you know what? I'm afraid to admit this because it's going to change everything, but we've got this nice stretch of weather here. I have a feeling that like somebody might be planning a camping trip coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend, and it's all going to go south.
What have I just told you when these two numbers match?
That's my luck.
See you, Mercury.
Why didn't we go this weekend? Well, I'm not the one that plans things sometimes. I just go along. All right, well, this weekend will be great.
It'll be wonderful this weekend.
It'll be great this weekend. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Airman First Class Sabra Bates in the U.S. Air Force. The Lamar, Missouri native joined the 131st Bomber Wing based out of Whiteman Air Force Base in 2012. To Sabra Bates, we thank you, our four-state hero. The four states played host to a number of hotly contested sheriff's races this year, and we're going to start in Crawford County, Kansas. The incumbent, Danny Smith, will remain sheriff after beating his challenger, J.J. Carlinger. Well, Bill Martin, the incumbent sheriff from Bourbon County, will keep his badge there. Sheriff Martin received 2,000 more votes than his challenger, Mike Fagans. And in Neosho County, Kansas, Under Sheriff Greg Taylor handily wins over his challenger, Kelly Stanley. Now to Ottawa County, Oklahoma, where there will be a change of leadership come January 1st. David Dean unseated incumbent Sheriff Jeremy Floyd by more than 2,000 votes. Dean has more than 20 years in law enforcement experience with the Miami Police Department, and he also served in the armed forces. He spoke with us last night about changes he says will be made.
The citizens of this county need to have bodies as far as deputies in the field. We do not have the best laws in the state as far as theft and drugs, and because of those laws, our thefts are through the roof, and we need some bodies out there to try to help these citizens.
Well, current Sheriff Jeremy Floyd sent us his reaction to the results. He says, quote, "The people have spoken, and I respect their decision as a whole. Having the choice is what makes our country the greatest place on earth. I congratulate and wish David Dean the best of luck." For more election results, you can go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
Despite a lack of afternoon sunshine, still going to cruise into the mid-70s. So that cloud cover pushes out. Tomorrow is going to be a gorgeous start, and we're going to roll the 70s all the way into the weekend. Now, over to Dow with a look at what's coming up tonight at 5.
Well, I had 5 coronavirus shut down offices. Of course, a lot of Americans can work from home, but new research shows it could become a trend that continues after the pandemic. Now, a number of large corporations say they'll allow their employees to do their job at home permanently. Plus, while the voting is over, might be a while before we know who the next president is. We're going to explain why and what happens next. And patience may be the key as we await presidential results. We're going to speak with a local kindergarten teacher and her students on how to practice patience during difficult times. They say everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. So,
Very
those stories
true.
and more at 5.
I think that's a lesson I need to sit in on, Dow. For sure. All right, thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.